Miss Jackie knew she the truth. I hope my daughter don't come here. Reality is simultaneous with spirituality. It's not wise to try to separate the two, because when something's simultaneous, that means they work together harmoniously. See, the way spirituality or the unseen works is whether or not you're conscious of what's going on, things are still happening. For the most part, people, especially with indoctrination and religion and stuff, misunderstandings of what was supposed to be handed down to us from our spiritual predecessors and our physical ancestors too, with the distortion from that to now, we don't have the correct perception of the as above, so below spiritual order. We try to look at things like it's backwards, which is actually making us backwards because things are actually inverted. And inversion is pretty much the same, just yin version of backwards. Because everything has a yin and a yang. That's why things are infinite. Because you can go inside of something go inside of you and then up in there. And it's like a big snowball effect. That's an infinite thing. So that's how spirituality and reality work hand in hand together. That creates the infinite. The way the perception is, people who not tapped in as much as they could, because everybody's tapped in. This happens regardless. You're always growing from an inward stance and a physical stance, whether that's going to be growing in the opposite direction that you would want to, or that's growing in a progressive way that your spirit would prefer that you go, because you're going to always progress. And depending on how you progress, change, transform, and transmute things, whether consciously, unconsciously, because sometimes you do things unconsciously correctly. Sometimes things are meant to be done unconsciously in order for them to be correct. Everything has good and bad, so I don't want to make it seem as if I'm saying that you're doing it wrong if you're doing this. But when it comes down to the obvious though, we know, because our experience has shown us, that certain things lead nowhere. Only insane people do things the same way and expect different results. And as a consciousness, if you want to use an allegory, like we're supposed to be creating a mind as a consciousness, we're very distorted and chaotic and separate. As a mind, we would be insane by continuing to do things the same way and thinking that things are going to work. Things have worked as far as getting from one day to the next, but as far as us seeing changes and real differences in the world and what we experience, that has not worked. We see the same thing that we've been seeing, just in our own modernized version of it. I know you've heard different versions of different stories, and it's all telling the same moral. Basically, that's what we're doing, but we're doing it kind of wrong to most of us. Because if most of us weren't doing it wrong, we wouldn't have people like me trying to say something about that. But it's all out of love, because see, these things we all are doing together. Everything that you're doing, I'm doing it in my own version of it. And some people may have experienced things that other people haven't experienced. And I'm not talking about a specific event or a situation. I'm talking about the energy. We've been in certain positions or haven't been in certain positions. We felt certain things. We've known certain things. It's so unique to each individual to where we all are supposed to learn from each other and create a cohesive consciousness. Not to say that everybody got to think the same. The thing is, with your Jesus, like Christianity speaks on, you're supposed to have your own unique perspective of things. But it's still, we're doing the same thing all at the same time. That just builds on a progression of newness. But when we all try to do things that were told to us, when we know that these things are not really, they don't feel in alignment, we do try to tap into our spiritual senses, because we innately know that there is that there's things that we can't see that make up who we are. We know that. So when we try to tap into that and we feel the confusion or the misalignment or the misunderstanding, or it's not complete, when we feel that, for me anyway, I want to figure out why come I couldn't make that right. We should want to make that right. That's my only problem with religion. Just a side note. Because we are not able to make things right when we have crutches and other people around us have the same situation, and they're not. It's like living in a nursery home full of people that's, on their way to glory, and it ain't like we got to do something about that. And that ain't how I want my shit to be. I don't want no reality like that. And if you look at it as a whole from an observer perspective, you will see how far that's going to go. Where is that going? And then we're living right now. We see. We're in the future right now. We see where that went. Because we misunderstood the point. Let's get back onto assignment though and realize that there's a whole different portion that we're missing. At least consider that. Why else are you here? You're here to learn. You're here to grow. So there has to be something that's not yet understood. That's the point of life. Like, come on.